Hey everyone, welcome back to Invisible Walls. I think there may have been a rumor that there wasn't going to be an episode this week, but let's quash that right now. We're just going to do a slightly smaller episode in honor of July 4th.
You're a slave driver, basically.
Well, you're a citizen now, right?
No.
Are you not?
No, I'm
Permanent resident?
a legal alien / permanent resident. Yeah.
So does July 4th, does it make you happy or angry? Because you're Welsh, you're not exactly British.
I basically say every 4th of July when an American comes up to me and says, "Oh, you must hate this day," I turn around and say, the English fought the Americans.
And they have a piece of King George III's brain, and one day we're going to see the redcoats coming over the hills again.
Well, the Welsh, the Irish, and the Scottish were all in the pub because we really didn't give a shit. Look, hey, it's an excuse for a holiday at a 4-day weekend, and God bless them.
Does Animal Crossing recognize
Canada
July
Day
4th?
also was
Yes,
today.
I am. This is proof that I did
like
actually
Love Day.
purchase Animal Crossing. This is my town. It's called Trout. And go figure. And yes, the first time I've actually been back in this for a couple of days, and that's all I'm doing is picking up weeds right now. Lots of weeds everywhere. And I hate gardening. I really do.
But do you like Animal Crossing?
Do you not watch last week's show?
No, I was away.
Interestingly
Seems like you're
enough,
playing it.
I made 50 bells in interest because I put money into my deposit account. So it does encourage people to save. So well done, Nintendo. You're setting a good example.
And we got Justin Spear here as well. First order of business, Don Matrick. There's your Annoyed Gamer was pre-recorded for this week. So
It was, and actually, I said at the beginning, at the beginning of the episode, guaranteed something major is going to happen, like Xbox is going to be giving away for free or something, and then Don goes to Zynga.
yeah, so I'm sure you have some choice words that you can now express in a more timely manner.
I mean, it just goes to show how offbeat Microsoft have been, because when, this isn't a case of Don Matrick getting out of bed on Monday and saying, I quit, I'm going to Zynga. Microsoft would have known about this for several months. I mean, these things take time, and you see, especially when you're at the very, very high echelons of a company, it's something that is, it's a phasing, and there's a lot of prep work, and they must have known about this at least 3 months, because that's normally the standard notice time you have to serve out. So why the hell did they put Matrick in front of everybody for the Xbox reveal and for E3? I mean, unless they've decided, you know what? Guess what? We're probably going to take a pounding on a lot of stuff. Let's put him out there as the bad guy.
Was he the sacrificial sheep?
Was he the patsy?
I mean, did they roll? Like, now I'm curious. Like, with him kind of being this weird figurehead, is this them like rolling the die with when they were trying to do the DRM thing? And then it's like, I mean, was this escape route already in the works? I mean, we'll never know for real.
Are we giving Microsoft too much credits for actually not planning that far in advance?
I mean, do you think one thing one way or the other?
Not really. It's not really of interest to me.
Thanks.
Good luck at Zynga.
Well, the
dude.
Zynga thing's pretty hilarious too.
Yeah, the fact
because you could see the Zynga guys being like, seeing all this DRM stuff and always on and being like, yeah, this is our guy. I can see this going to our farms.
They've not been
whatnot.
doing incredibly well, though.
No, they've been doing incredibly poorly.
I don't know. I could not care less.
I think
Next segment,
CEO
please.
stuff is pretty funny. It's like these little corporate. Well, Ballmer's in charge
We had
now,
we
right?
had a pretty funny skit that was going to go up. It was so good, no one will ever know about it.
I don't know if it was
Matrick,
so good, but
exclusive interview.
yeah.
Well,
His
Ballmer's,
luscious lips.
Had Kaz in there.
he has everybody
Reggie was
reporting into him for the moment, but the rumor is that not Phil Harrison, somebody else. Is
Well,
gonna
that's
take
funny
over.
too. That Phil's back now.
Phil Spencer, that's the one. That's the
Better.
rumor. Game Informer did a piece, I think, earlier in the week that Phil Spencer is being groomed and will take over very shortly, because the general consensus is that Ballmer in charge of the Xbox One launch will probably be an unmitigated disaster, because
Sweaty.
he's got so many other things to do. He is running the entire company. So Phil Spencer might be somebody who people seem to like, and he might be a better public face for Microsoft.
I'm just curious if we're going to see more CEO musical chairs. Like, there's the EA vacancy right now.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know about the Iwata rumors. Seem a little silly. But, I mean, I wouldn't be overly surprised either.
Yeah, I mean, somebody actually asked me about Iwata on Twitter this week, and I just don't know. I mean, Nintendo is sort of like, it's moved into its own little bubble. And
I think they've been in a bubble for a while.
But I mean, they are now officially, there's the reservation, and they've got their own field adjacent. to whatever Sony and Microsoft are doing. They're forging their own path, as it were. Yeah, I think Nintendo does need some leadership, but I don't think it's one of those things, given that they're a Japanese company and the way the Japanese do business, I can't see Iwata going anytime soon. They do, they like the stability. They're still making money.
But those guys resign all the time.
Do they?
I don't know. Let's talk about games or something.
Yeah,
It's
no, I'm just saying, like there's some crazy news in the last couple of weeks.
I would say
Microsoft-wise.
I would say Reggie is probably he's the one to watch.
Well,
as
he
the
keeps
figurehead.
getting promoted and stuff rapidly.
I'm kind of surprised that he is a very nice guy, but I'm still I'm surprised he's in charge of Nintendo US. I'm surprised he hasn't moved on or whatever. But maybe he's happy being this this I don't know. I'm not going to say a subservient toady, but I mean it's like, hey, here's Reggie, and out he bounces and he says his little things.
Well, did you see his? He did a tour for his Animal Crossing house, and I'm sure as a Animal Crossing enthusiast, you looked at his house.
I missed that
one. Which
one.
is nice Reggie sheets. You imagined rolling around on them.
Practice the castle doctrine. That'd be cool if you could mug other. Like I know you can chop down trees, but you can't go in other people's houses, right?
You can
illegal.
explore, but you can't steal stuff. I mean, there's
doctrine.
nothing nasty you can do in there. You can't even take a poo.
Well, speaking of nasty, I heard you got to play the Saints Row preview build.
I did. I did.
We loaded it up yesterday. It drew a pretty big crowd. It's the start of the game, right?
It's the start of the game, yeah.
The jokes are fast and furious.
Yes, I mean it kicks off pretty much, and I don't want to spoil too much of the story, but everybody's seen the president section where the aliens attack, and we all know what happens there. The main crux of the game is actually when you're directly after that, when you're uploaded into this simulation, and it's obvious that the Volition guys have been aching to do a Matrix game. There are so many references to Matrix. It feels that sort of way. I mean, you collect these clusters, and you can upgrade your jumps and your super speed, and you can run around.
Well, does it
glide.
have that Crackdown feel that everyone was talking about?
It really does. It really does.
The Crackdown 1 feel.
The Crackdown 1 feel, which is why I've got a big smile on my face. I mean, I played through the preview build in its entirety yesterday, and it was only a couple of hours, and then I went back to a previous save because I'd literally gone A to B, and then I went back into the simulation, and then just started dicking around with some of the side missions where you can upload viruses. There's a big cat, and the big-headed cat runs around, and he can kick your ass. You've got different alien outposts that you get to take down to just hack the simulation more and more. And it truly is a sandbox game. That section really is the definition of sandbox, because they encourage you to screw with the mechanics, screw with the ragdoll physics.
I'm curious now that it's with the whole superhero also angle to it in the simulation. Like, do you find yourself kind of like not jumping into vehicles as much because you have so much mobility as just a dude?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I did was I started exploring. And one of the things you can do is you have to turn these towers from take control of these towers, turn them from red to blue, and it's kind of Tron-esque. But as you jump up, and navigate them, you pick up more clusters. On one of them, you actually come across a UFO. And it's a sleek looking little fighter type thing. And once I've got that, once you're in any vehicle, you press, and I'm playing on the PC, you press N to save it to your data, and you can call it up anytime. Then must just materialize. And once you've got that flying saucer, it's fantastic. You just fly around it and just blow shit up and ram things. And
it's better than Destroy All Humans.
It is actually more fun. I mean, Destroy All Humans.
Just the flying saucer thing.
Okay.
Well, I feel like those guys also, they bit off of a lot of the old Hulk open world games with the running up walls and the smashes and stuff.
Prototype. I mean, it's definitely an homage to, I think, all those.
They took every good idea they could find, basically.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, I can see.
Is that what an open world game should be at this point, though?
Because I feel like it should be very story-based and restrictive.
Oh yeah, did you see all the GTA news? Sounds cool, but I'm curious.
I actually didn't read it. But
I'm curious with Saints Row.
I'll go back and look
kind of going head-to-head with GTA, because Saints Row was always like, "Hey, we're here!" Like especially the first one was actually pretty tame. They kept doing
it was a clone.
Crazy.
That was a GTA.
Yeah, and it was HD, and GTA 4 took like 3 years to come out or whatever. I'm a little curious, though. Like I'm always when games are similar, people are always like, oh, don't release a shooter because Call of Duty's going to come out. But the only shooter that came out that one year was like Left 4 Dead 2, and it did really well. So I'm always curious if games actually bolster each other or if they really do compete, if both games are like quality, you know?
This game is very self-aware. I mean, you just listen to the intro.
Well, the last one was too.
I mean, even more. I mean, basically, as you start with the intro, there's an intro monologue, and it basically, it catalogs how, the first Saints Row came out, and it was accused of being a clone, and then how it found its own identity and became more of a, I think, was it a puckish character with regard, in the games world. So yeah, it's very self-aware. I think it's one of those games that it's a perfect counterbalance to GTA. GTA is going to be, great, we hope, and it's going to have all this very, very serious stuff. From what I've played of Saints Row so far, it's, it's
an interesting choice of words in comparison to Saints Row.
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. It is. It's
more like it's weird. I always feel like GTA is kind of like biting satire, but it's kind of on that edge, right?
But I mean, it is more.
There's still a lot of goofy shit going on.
Yeah, there's goofy shit, but you don't have basically a bunch of upside down, mannequins
right, it's not
running
naked,
at
it's
you.
It's not Naked Gun. I always think this is like a Naked Gun movie,
Yeah, I mean, Saints Row is satire and farce. I mean, with the third one, I made the comparison on this show that it was like the Jersey Shore. It's one of those guilty pleasure type games. And from what I played so far, 4 seems like a lot more fun than 3.
Oh, that's cool. I had some issues with 3, so.
Yeah, that simulation section alone is just so much fun to mess around with.
But is the simulation the main game?
No, it's not. I mean, once you
does it feel like you're gonna Does it feel like you're going to keep going back to that throughout the whole course of the campaign?
I think Chris thought maybe there are different virtual worlds possibly in there, or there could be,
Yeah.
I think it's
That's
not.
Cool.
I don't think they've come out with it, but yeah, you escape the simulation.
Yeah, you escape the simulation, and again, it's kind of Matrixy, and this time you're running around naked, with goo dripping off you, and then it leads to a little spaceship flight, and then that's when it ends. It's going to be interesting because you do get so used to playing with the superpowered characters and running up the sides of buildings and jumping, half a mile every time, that when it does go back in the real world, that's going to be a jolt gameplay-wise. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they tackle that. I mean, they have given no indication of how that switch is going to go, because I can imagine after being superpowered and running, fast and everything, and then boom, I'm back in the real world and I'm taking on the aliens. And I can just go,
Well, it's cool, because I felt like the last game was really good at least keeping some, like, there's the level of jokes, like, the guy who had the, not vocoder voice, what's the word I'm looking for?
Auto-tune.
The auto-tune voice, like, that's a joke, but then it was like, there was the virtual world in the last game, and then like the zombies and stuff like that. They actually do a good job of keeping a couple things kind of hidden, even though there's so, like, right now, aliens, virtual world, so they do actually pack a lot in. I'm actually somewhat excited. I mean, I always get a little turned off by some of the gunplay and stuff, and the chaos is fun for like 15 minutes, but it's not something I can do like the long term. But I think that crackdown level of like the orbs and stuff, where you get like, it's not just finding shit for finding shit's sake, but you actually get rewarded for it, could be a real driving force for me.
And they introduce powers. You get a power to freeze, and then there's a heat power and mind control in the simulation as well that you can access later on. I think this is going to be one of those polarizing games. I think there's going to be a lot of reviewers who are going to look down on it because the engine creaks a little. There is some glitching.
It looked pretty good on PC when we were running it.
Well, I mean, I was running it on PC, but again, I mean, just even, look at you look at some of the intro sequence and some of the cut scenes. And this was a preview build, so this might be polished and out the door.
It's coming out in like a month and a half, though.
Well, we don't know how recent this build is. This could have been an E3 build or a pre-3. But yeah, I think there's going to be people who are going to look down on it because it is daft and silly and very self-aware. But I think there's also a lot of people who if you want something fun, this is and obviously I want to wait until the final game. But I mean, it's just daft and silly. Those are the buzzwords, and I like daft and silly. And I've very much enjoyed the preview build, and I'm looking forward to playing the game in a month.
And now the exact opposite of daft and silly. You may want to just play a little Animal Crossing for the next 3 minutes. The latest Magic the Gathering game came out.
Yeah, that's more
more my speed.
Does it have a dubstep gun in it?
There is no dubstep. You can tap to dubstep. 2 colorless mana, artifact creature. But I mean, this is a point where we're seeing kind of it's on everything now. It's on like iOS and Android.
Yeah, and it's really well suited, I think, to like a tablet or something like that. So,
but it's at the point where it is a year after year franchise iteration.
This is the fourth one.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't know, like I think this is probably one of the lower scores we've given, even though as it starts doing the thing everyone wanted, it was, you can kind of now build your own deck from the sealed deck thing, but that kind of takes the place of some of the crazier offerings they had before.
Well, from year to year, they make some small improvement. We're talking about, if we actually said it out loud, we're talking about Magic.
Did I say
Gathering,
MTG?
Duels of the Planeswalkers.
2014.
Series. Yeah, so different than Magic Online, I guess, still going.
It's like limping along.
Yeah, I mean, it's super dated.
This is more the grandfather of microtransactions, pretty much there.
Exactly. Yeah, but this is kind of like, get into Magic, just, play a little bit, a lot of cool pre-constructed decks. But so this year they have the sealed deck play. You can build your own deck. In the past, they've had things like the archenemy mode, where it's 3 players against one really powerful player who draws cards that have really powerful effects. They had like a plane chase mode. Two-headed giant is still around.
It's still there, okay.
Yeah, it's still around. You can still play with someone else locally. You can play stuff online. But yeah, this sealed play this year, which is kind of the big thing everyone wanted, is a little bit underwhelming just because there's kind of limited card variety, so you tend to see the same cards in every deck, or there's only so many rares, so many uncommons to go around, so you're like, oh, okay, this is, it's still cool.
But it works, right? Like,
yeah, it works.
But it's taken 4 years for them to actually get to the point where you can build your deck instead of just taking out a couple cards and putting in a couple cards, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there are various reasons for that. And it's not a thing where, you pay money to get more cards, although you do pay to get more slots, because once you start a sealed, Marcus probably doesn't.
No, it's one of those things. I've tried to play these games in the past, and it's just one of those things that I can't get into.
Had you tried the X-Blah game?
I actually tried playing Dungeons and Dragons with friends 20 years ago.
This is totally different.
This is like a collectible card game. Magic kind of started it, honestly. But
Magic is definitely the reigning
20 years or
reigning
whatever
champion of.
But they do a good job of making it they do, for as complex as it is, like with the tutorials and stuff. They do a good job of introducing people to it. Like I tried to play, on a whim, there was a Marvel trading card game that was on DS.
Yeah.
And I tried to play it. I couldn't get past the second tutorial. Following I'm also very dumb, but they did a good job of actually putting in fairly complex stuff. There's still some times when I'm like, wait, what happened? And I know you ran into a bug, but
I did get a little
reflections thing.
Redirect. Until they patch it, don't put redirect in your sealed deck, because the game will recognize you're changing the target as an error, and it'll fuck you over.
The one thing
that
I wish Magic did.
So salty about that.
Salty.
I was totally winning. I had 20 life. Salty. The guy's like, I'm going to put this enchantment on my flying 5/6 angel. I'm like, actually, I'm going to take that and put it on my dude and stomp you.
And then the game just
the game's like, wait a minute, that's his enchantment. So I gave it back to him. And then 6 turns later, he eventually won. I could not get through 2 damage to win the game. So pissed.
My big thing about the Magic...
It's fun, though.
The Magic series, I've bought them all on Xbox Live. I wish, it's the same thing I think sports people have, where sometimes you wish you could just buy the roster update, and there's all that DLC. I wish the games kind of grew on top of each other, so you had access to all those cards, all those decks, because the online play is pretty fun if people don't rage quit.
Yeah. Well, I suppose the thing is, in each one, the pre-constructed decks are kind of balanced against each other, and some of the older decks are borderline broken, and if you just could play with that one. But yeah, certainly every year maybe they'll have an elf deck most years. And the first one was super great, and then a year later you're like, oh, elves again, but not as good.
Do you think there's a chance
different kind of decks?
Having played this now and the sealed deck thing, do you think 2015 they could maybe have instead of an expansion, have all of just Magic, the standard deck, all
I don't think that's the
cards?
role that this game plays for them. I think they want people to play this game, get into Magic, start buying real cards, but for $10,
right?
For $10, I think, that you can go in, take your code to a store and get a promo pack with some rare cards. But yeah, it's for the price, it's really fun. It's good. I think the sealed deck mode will get better. They have a DLC advertisement already in the game that says September. Here comes DLC. Get ready for it. It's a little, maybe a little tacky, but the game's $10. I can appreciate what they're giving me for however much money. So more cards in the sealed deck mode will make it better.
We just talked about this a little bit, but I think Marcus would like this. Before 2014 came out, they were heavily advertising 2013 all over Xbox Live.
Yeah.
And it seemed kind of like they were trying to trick people, like, oh, here's
Well,
the new game.
2013 might be I think it's a more solid game overall. So if you bought that one,
It was just
wait till,
kinda
you can play that while you're waiting for the 2014 DLC to come out and
coy
beef up the game a bit.
marketing. I don't know. It's a little odd.
Yeah. It's a cool game. Magic is worth playing. If someone's never played Magic, you could totally just play this and run through the tutorial, play a few games.
Well, you can always
and
download
kind
the
of get
demo.
into it. There's a lot to enjoy. There's a reason it's sold.
Hey, there's not much else to play right now, so
Yeah, I mean that's why we are going to now talk about Rogue Legacy, which is totally my wheelhouse. But July looks awful. I think Dark's coming out. Sorry, Calypso.
let's just take July off. Everybody vacation.
But I've been playing Rogue Legacy. That also drew a small crowd. This is kind of like a 2D Castlevania game where every hero, and when you die, you play your son or your daughter or ancestor, and they can have traits like irritable bowel syndrome or color blindness.
Wow, tell me more.
Yes.
I always wanted
so
to play
there's
it,
some
but-
gags, but the actual game itself is pretty solid. Where you've played an old Metroid or an old Castlevania, you go around, you accumulate gold. There's bosses and enemies, some secrets and stuff. But the castle is completely randomized, and gold is kind of the main impetus to actually grow your character. I was a little disappointed that the genealogy stuff is kind of just more random and not really more of a gag, and you kind of get over it after a little while.
You can't have any selective breading.
No,
Yeah,
there's really no breeding.
You can't even shag different women
it's
because this
funny,
one's
though,
got
because-
plus 10 strength.
No, I mean that's like they kind of sell it a
that
little
would have
bit
been great,
that way.
obviously, but yeah, they didn't do it.
But it's an interesting game, and I think a lot of people who have there hasn't been a good 2D Castlevania in a while, and I would maybe make an argument that Order of Ecclesia wasn't the best game. There hasn't been a 2D Metroid in a decade. When was Metroid Zero Mission? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, and I don't know if you didn't really like FTL that much. Did you ever mess around with FTL
never
or
messed
Spelunky?
I like FTL.
No, but
I
you
didn't
weren't
get
hooked like
into
everyone else.
it. Yeah, quite so much.
I just like to see the roguelike thing, and the definition of roguelike is a little weird, but I think it kind of has the idea of randomness. Hard to win, but okay to lose. It's about having fun, not necessarily about always succeeding, but kind of gaining on your own, with your own playtime, having fun, and kind of gaining from that experience to take on to the next one.
Well, that's the crux of a good game. Look, I'm curious, this whole having the kids thing. How does this work? You die and then one pops out.
There's a
three,
new character,
and
it has random kind of traits.
and
you actually buy things in a store to
Yeah,
unlock
yeah,
them,
you-
right? Like new class
you'll
types
find
and stuff like that.
weapons and stuff like that, and you can unlock health upgrades and new classes and new abilities. So you can be I was a dwarven paladin who was nostalgic, so everything was sepia tone. But then I was a lich, like a giant lich. So his ability was every time I killed someone, I got a couple extra permanent HP. It's all it's pretty low level stuff. There's not really too many deep systems. There's these runes that was fun. We got triple jump yesterday that you can stack in these abilities and flight and vampirism and stuff. There's enough stuff to play around with and be interesting, even though the game itself is fairly simple, but it does a good job of riding that line between frustration and making progress and that kind of feedback loop. Once you become powerful enough, you go to a new area. But there's the castle's randomly put together, so it's nice that you kind of see these rooms and these traps, but then the enemy layouts are different, so you're always kind of not entirely sure what you're going to be coming up against. And then sometimes you go into a room and it's like a clown taking a shit or something. You're like, okay, that's random. So it has a little bit of the naughty bits.
This actually this does sound more of a game that I think I would like to try. This one, with no offense to Magic the Gathering, but I am definitely I'm definitely in that frame of mind.
You're playing Animal Crossing now. I think anything could get to you. You could get into anything.
No, July is a piss poor month. I mean, Shadowrun returns towards the end of the month.
Yeah, that's delayed till the end of the month, and then Rise of the Triad.
That's
July
actually
31st.
August, isn't it? Oh, is it July 31st?
Yeah, first day of QuakeCon.
Hand of God again.
Sepia tone vision on that one, I guess.
I'm looking forward to Rise of the Triad. I dug the original, and when I got to play it at PAX, it was just old school.
Is it still all
deathmatch.
right angles?
Actually, no, I don't think so.
That game was one of those weird games that I was so hyped for. This is pre-internet. Like this is like
You
93.
mean for the disc on the front of the?
93, 92,
Yeah.
maybe. But it had the digitized graphics like Mortal Kombat, so it's like, oh, it looks like I'm shooting real dudes. And it was like they were trying to do
Murder's
like
so real.
Z-axis stuff, but it was still just like Doom. It was actually like less than Doom and more like Wolfenstein, but they had a couple tricks.
Well,
It's no,
I
it's
just
no
remember they had
hexen.
the
It's
hand
no
of
hexen,
God.
in my
Well,
opinion.
it started off as a Wolfenstein sequel, and then the dev teams kind of split, and Apogee went off to make Rise of the Triad into its own game because it originally was going to be a Wolfenstein.
No, it was one of those games I enjoyed, but I think in the end I was disappointed. I think I only played the shareware back in the day. God, you don't hear the word shareware
you don't.
that much anymore.
No, it's called trial version now.
I had a friend in high school, and we told her what shareware was, and then she started calling slutty girl. She called slutty girl. She didn't like shareware, which is kind of, I'm sorry, it's kind of a weird story, but I always thought that was kind of
And
funny.
was she wearing clothes by Cher? Because that
No.
would have just been
Does
meta.
Cher make clothes?
I'm sure she does.
Okay.
Don't they
I know
all?
I know sailors like her. But speaking of Shadowrun Returns, kind of the last little topic for today is Double Fine is double dipping.
Well, actually, to be fair, they're not necessarily double dipping. They have, I mean, obviously they had their $400,000 Kickstarter that they made $3.2 million for.
Right.
And the game was supposed to be delivered, and they have said that the game is slipping. The first version of the game, the first half of the game will come out early next year.
Patrick, you kickstarted it, right?
I did.
What's it called again?
Broken Age.
Broken Age, right.
Broken
So how
Promises,
pissed,
more like.
how pissed are you?
Yeah, Patrick,
They're, like,
as
abusing
a
your trust.
Kickstarter of it, what's your thoughts?
It makes me wonder because, originally they had a vision for it where it was, this like small little, downloadable game. But now that they had so much money, I wonder like if not saying that publishers are required, but certainly they are able to keep budgets and keep things on schedule.
Well, this is what he said. I mean, Tim Schafer came out and said, I designed too much game. As soon as we got all this extra money, I designed too much game, and we weren't going slow. But I kept on adding to the design, and this is what Tim Schafer is notorious for. And this is what I said when we talked about the original Kickstarter, and it was making all this money, that the game will be delayed. Tim Schafer, his eyes are too big for his belly, and
not even Tim Schafer though. I mean, I'm like, this is going back to when all this Kickstarter stuff happened 2 or 3 years ago. I'm wary of kickstarting big projects in general. I mean, these guys are like, they're a known software house, and that's a lot of money, but it's also not, did you just see that, what's his face? Who did Fez? Phil Fish?
Yeah.
He just estimated that Fez cost $500,000. And that was really like,
Really?
do you guys remember Braid? That was $180,000. Like that, and that's Jonathan Blow paying himself
Isn't Fez
60
2
grand.
people?
Mainly 2 people, and then cert costs and stuff like that. But it's,
I'm sure it costs money. It
yeah,
seems,
I mean,
like a surprising
and
thing.
Double Fine is like, what, 50 people, 60 people? I mean, it's a smaller house, but it's not that small, right? I
no,
mean,
look,
it's crazy when you start thinking about these costs.
Did you
but
kickstart Massive Chalice also?
No, I didn't.
the fact is that they asked
I've
for.
kickstarted very few things, honestly. Not
Yeah.
that I don't want them to succeed. Like, did the
I've only done Barkley 2. It's the only thing I've
did the
kickstarted.
Skull Monkeys people come by while I was gone? That claymation thing? Did Blood end up doing that
Yeah,
interview?
they did come by.
Like, that's something I'm really, really
Armikrog,
hopeful
I
for.
guess.
But it's like they wanted $900,000, and it's like, it just makes me a little antsy. I really like, the games I didn't support that I ended up really liking, like Grimrock and FTL. I wish I had like those smaller games that, it's weird now that indie games or Kickstarter games can kind of have this giant commercial quality to them. I don't know. It seems like they're kind of butting heads. This is just a personal opinion. It's not like I want any of this stuff to fail. I'm just very wary and like on a personal level, and now it seems like it's coming to
Yeah, I
roost
think
for some other people too.
Double Fine asked for they asked for
$15. No.
They asked for 400 grand. They got 3.2. They couldn't, they couldn't make the game and deliver it in the period. To be fair to them, they've said we're not asking for more money. We're just basically telling you it's going to take longer, and they said they're going to eat the additional costs themselves, which is going to be interesting. But yeah, I mean, Patrick makes a good point. I mean, publishers can be a pain in the ass and an unnecessary evil in a lot of ways, but they can also be a very necessary evil with regards to holding the purse strings and keeping certain developers on track. Tim Schafer and Double Fine do some amazing stuff. I mean, I'm playing with middle management superhero.
Middle Manager of Justice.
Yeah, middle manager. Yeah, that one. I'm playing that on the iPad. I'm having a blast with it. You know, it's a fun Double Fine game.
Oh no, Double Fine's great. I mean,
But
Amnesia Fortnite is like one of the best ideas I've seen out of a major studio in
but
decades.
they cannot hit a deadline, you know, to save their lives. I mean, and I remember this from when I was at Vivendi and we were doing Brutal Legend, because that was my game. I was supposed to launch that game before I left Vivendi, and you know.
So it's your fault.
No, it was. I was gone before it was even announced.
I'm kidding.
But no, it was just one of those things that, you know, sometimes with brilliance and genius when it comes to, you know, developing stuff and seeing stuff, you do need somebody there to play the big bad, to crack the whip and say, all right, well, guess what? You're burning through this a little too fast, or you've designed too much. You need to, you know, pull it back a little. And that, you know, that's the downside of, you know, working as an indie self-publishing.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Kickstarter stuff.
I feel like with Kickstarter, you know the risks when you sign up for it.
Yeah.
This is, you know, you can't say, but you didn't do exactly
people
whatever.
can
They're
take
like,
the
hey,
money
we're
and
going to
run.
try to make a game, so please give us money.
And they,
It's your choice.
like
you
I
know.
said, they came, you know,
I wouldn't be
Fair
too
Dues, they
worried.
came out. You know, they came out and said, we're running behind. We're going to eat the extra costs ourselves. We don't want extra money from you. We're sorry. We're gonna move on.
I will say things like Kickstarter, especially with like, you know, how if you pay X amount of dollars, you'll get the alpha access or the beta access. And with Steam Greenlight, with people trying to like really sell you on their games, it's funny. I feel like at least on the PC side, like things are kind of changing a lot. Because then it's like, how can you get people into this access and stuff like that? And God, think back a couple years. Remember, Capcom was trying to do this with Mega Man Legends 3, and people were
It seemed to be working.
people were upset, right? Like the $2 for the beta, right? But it's like paid beta is just like, I mean,
But then
Minecraft as well, right?
But then they canceled the game.
You're completely correct. I'm just saying it's kind of weird that there was this kind of, you know,
think-
it's kind of the argument like Cliffy was making that, you know, everyone's getting angry about microtransactions, but then no one bats an eye at Valve with the hats in Team Fortress. And yes,
I do.
there is.
I bat an eye at that.
I've
Okay.
never
I bet
bought
my
a hat
bad
in
eye.
Team Fortress, you know, or an avatar, whatever for my, you know,
Well, games your
T-shirt.
business, you know, so we should all just shut up.
Did you guys read that Gama
Open your
Sutra
wallet.
thing?
Which one?
Oh,
I
God,
probably did.
about the good steps to making not a freemium game, but a free-to-play game.
Yeah, well, the article is
You wanna, like,
basically to
v-
expose
vom-
these things. It wasn't, you know.
Yeah, but it makes you wanna,
it's
like,
hey,
I felt
this is how you do evil
felt
stuff.
sick.
Do you see how this is evil? You can make this game if you want, but you know, keep in mind.
I think
it's
that-
a really interesting article.
To go back to your
I
point
was
about
trying to tell
Capcom, it's a perception thing. Capcom is a publisher. They do, you know, people think they have stacks of money. They may not. Whereas Notch and Mojang didn't have pots and pots of money, and they were charging, you know, $10 to play
they
this
have
beta.
pots now.
No, they have pots. They have in more
Fucking
than,
Scrooge McDuck tier.
Exactly.
money
Yeah.
bins.
Fucking no cooldowns either.
Yeah, and you know, that's the same with the independents, the Phil Fishers, the Jonathan Blows. If they're not signing a big deal with a publisher, they have the positive perception of, yeah, we are two guys in garages doing, you know, X, Y, and Z. I think the other thing about Kickstarter is Ouya, which we haven't talked about because it's Ouya. But I mean, the
Well,
fact
yeah,
that
no,
their
Ouya's been
backers, a lot of their backers didn't get their their promised pre-release units, while Ouya all of a sudden was in stores and people were still waiting for their stuff. This happened while you were away.
And then a lot of people people that did get their pre-units, it's like, wow, I have a giant Android phone, right?
Yeah.
What's the one game that
what you're
Rohan's
signing up for.
playing it? The one with the arrows?
Yeah.
Like now they have an exclusive game, and it's funny because we're going back to fucking like
Samurai
19...
Gun with.
Yeah, I
Knights.
can't remember what it's
wish-
called.
Yeah, I
But
can't
now it's
remember.
like we're going back to like it's like 1980, or it's like more like 16-bit era now. It's like what can you get on the Genesis? What can, like, you know, again with when we were looking at exclusives now, the Ouya has an exclusive. That's hilarious, but it makes a lot of sense. You know, the old ways refuse to die.
yeah, Ouya.
It's a weird name. Well, thanks guys for joining us for this impromptu Independence Day episode. A lot of cool stuff coming down the road, even if July sucks. We're working on a lot of special features and some weird stuff. So keep watching the game trailers and that stuff. The game trailers.
The game
I'm going to go
trailers.
buy thegametrailers.com right now.
The Invisible Walls.
No, not that though.
No, I'll buy that then.
Okay.
All right.
See this and other GT shows and game reviews on the GT Originals iOS app, available now on the App Store.